happy Monday, February 3rd, 2025. I'll say happy Monday to Live Longevity Community, as I'm being optimistic that at some point that this will be a community that we're supporting each other with longevity goals. But what is longevity? Longevity to me, and it's evolved over the course of the last couple of years as I've been on a journey of discovery. Longevity, I'm trying to keep it really simple for me, but then also such that I can support others in at least getting on the path of discovery. But for me, it is just creating a situation with the protocols, cognitively, mentally, physically, such that I can be the best version of myself. I keep it a pretty simple goal. Try to measure at least once a day, start there, so that I'm becoming, I am doing those activities. I am focused on being the best version of myself at least once every day. Pretty simple. So I had on a previous video talked about calculating your longevity score. And again, it's not about the end goal for me. I think a longevity challenge like put together here by Simon Hill with the Living Proof is, again, they talk about in business, other venues, sporting, high performance athletics, you can't improve what you can't measure. So this is, to me, just simple measurement, although it does take a little time. But again, try to view it as an investment in yourself, and what better investment than yourself. So calculating your longevity score, I've done some work at this point regards to it. So I'm not going to put the date tested quite yet, as I'm building into, but male, does one or more of these apply to me? Yes, they do. I am a male, 40 years of age. I don't know if my family history of cardiovascular disease as I was adopted, but I do have quite a bit of focus on trying to understand my risk with cardiovascular health or disease. I do keep, I know my wife, she was also adopted, but there was a history on her father's side, her adopted father's side of the family, with some early deaths regarding with heart attack. And I mean early, like her dad passed away at 57 with a massive heart attack. Uncle that I believe was 53 when he passed away. My father has, my adopted father has quite an extensive list of interventions with regards to cardiovascular. I won't go into all of it, but it did include open heart surgery for heart valve replacement, multiple stents, angioplasties, all that. And he, at 86, is still with us, and get to spend a little time, although his mental health in the last year in particular has started to decline. His cognitive abilities, I do believe it's tied to his heart challenges, if you will. So enough on that. No pre-diabetes, no type 2 diabetes, no hypertension, no history of smoking. My LP little a is, I can't remember. I did have that tested. I've gone through my various lab works over the last several years. I have not been able to find that one. I did have my calcium score. I think it was like 3-4 years ago. It is greater than 0. And more on that in a future video, but I believe anymore your calcium score is a little dated. Here's just the quick on that. Calcium score, it's done with imaging, and the imaging will pick up calcified plaque within your arteries. And the reason I say it's probably a little dated is the calcified plaque is not necessarily your highest risk for a coronary or a cardiovascular disease event. It's the soft plaque that is potentially provides higher risk, and there are new imaging techniques that will score the soft plaque within your cardiovascular system. So anyways, but either way, I do have a yes because male of 40 years in age, and I do have a calcium score greater than 0. I'm age 56. My height, I'll have to have my wife help me with that, just because it's a little tough to do on your own. The waist circumference is a little easier if you can, find just a flexible tape measure that has centimeters on it. You're going to want to do it, around your waist, somewhere kind of midway between your lowest rib and your hip bone. So kind of usually just right above your belly button. And you don't want to pull it tight where it's digging into your skin, but you definitely don't want any slack either. Happiness and fulfillment. So in my last video, I gave a link to the Harvard Flourishing Scale. It's not what this measurement, it's not what this community, this test is using. I will include a link for the questionnaire that this community, this test is using. Mine was a 48. And be honest with yourself on this. These flourishing scales are a little challenging. Keep in mind, this is not necessarily you're trying to measure yourself against anyone. You're just trying to truly understand where you are at. I definitely recognize that one couple of points with regards to happiness and fulfillment that I'm working on, and I have been working on very actively for the last year. First is purpose, and I know that's such a trite statement, overused, hard to understand, and it's your purpose follows your passion. I mean, there's but it is worth doing the work to kind of to just feel. It's hard to say discover your purpose, but it's. I think it's worthy of doing work there. It doesn't necessarily have to intrude on other elements of your life, but just like your wellness, your exercise routines, um, some of your other mental health routines, just work it into your schedule. Understand that it is an investment in yourself. So purpose is one thing that I'm still working through, as well as my relationships. I recognize that there was a couple of events, one that we all went through, and that was COVID, that for whatever reason, some of my relationships have just never really recovered from that. Other event that I have experienced for quite some time is, it's a trade-off, right? But I have worked from home for a number of years now, probably at least like 10 years. Good, there's good trade-offs to that, and then there's challenging trade-offs to that. So, from a work standpoint, it's been tough to cultivate some deep relationships within the work environment. And then, I think for me, there was probably almost 20 years where I focused on youth sports coaching. I coached for, I won't go into the depth here, but I coached multiple sports, including hockey, including the last 10-ish years of coaching at the high school level. Put a lot into it, built a lot of great relationships in coaching, but they weren't necessarily relationships that sustained outside of that environment. So I walked away from coaching a little more than a year ago. I think it's almost 2 years ago now. And so I'm working on my relationships again, and happy that I'm put focus on that. Okay, grip strength. The easiest way to test this is to get a dynamometer. And if I'll provide some links on where you might be able to purchase that. You shouldn't have to spend too much money on that, like $20 to $30. It's worth the investment just to have around. Grip strength really, if you are looking for a general measurement of strength, and you got to keep in mind strength, muscle mass, is a pretty strong correlation to your lifespan. It for a lot of reasons, it helps you maintain a healthy metabolism, metabolic health. It helps prevent injuries or protect your body from injuries by having this good strength. Helps continue to bolster your energy. There's so many things we could go into there. VO2 max, I have not tested that yet. Quick on VO2 max. So VO2 max in performance athletics is definitely a measurement. In a lot of high performance athletes will like to have an understanding of where their VO2 max is. I think as far as like longevity, is there a correlation to VO2 max to your health outcomes, your longevity outcomes? Yeah, there is. Is it the best predictor, best measurement? No, not necessarily, because unless you're a high performance athlete, and being so that you've built a foundation of cardiovascular health, call it like zone 2 training, where you have just a solid foundation. Trying to improve your VO2 max is going to be a little bit. You're gonna hit plateaus. You're not gonna get the full outcomes that you're looking for. So I'm gonna measure my VO2 max. There's some ways to do it, to at least give you a good guesstimate outside of going to see a performance clinic and getting hooked up to the machines and on the treadmill and all that. So I'm going to do that in a separate video. The bone mineral density, really the only way to do that is a DEXA scan. I'm not going to do that, so I'll just end up putting a 0 in for this, just because that's what they're asking you to do in this. So I'm not going to do it just because it's like $250. Is it worth the investment? Yeah, probably. Do I feel that at this time I'm challenged with my bone mineral density? I know that you still can't improve what you can't measure, so I haven't forgotten that statement I opened with, but I do have a pretty solid diet. Could it improve? Absolutely. There's always room for improvement. Am I by far the best when it comes to my diet? Not even close. Am I the worst? No way. I won't focus on my diet in this video, but I also have for decades done a lot of strength training, weight resistance, which helps your bone mineral density. I also do a fair amount of cardio. I still do some running. I love to bike. The running in particular helps your bone mineral density. Anyway, enough on that. I'm going to go with a 0. Blood pressure. I have invested a couple of years ago in just this wrist cuff blood pressure measurer, and I use it. And again, I can provide some links. Should only have to spend like $30 to $40 on that. It's the brand that I have. Again, I'll put a link into the brand I have. It has proven to be very accurate in the sense of I've measured it in the morning, like before a wellness check with my primary care physician, and then the med tech will take my blood pressure, like an hour later or whatever in the office, and it's spot on. So my blood pressure is typically right around 120/80. That's kind of right where you want it. Couple things on blood pressure. If you rewind 5-6 years ago, my blood pressure was probably a little on the high side. It tended to be a little more like 130 over like 85, 90. Now there's a lot of days where it's like 115, 119 over like 70, 75. It generally averages just right around 120/80. A couple things, interventions I did. I really looked at my sodium intake, and my sodium as measured in November was like 141, which is right average. But more so, it's managing your sodium intake. Obviously, exercise is very key to managing your blood pressure, but so is sodium intake, as well as, interestingly enough, potassium intake. The average American, what I've seen, is the average American is very deficient in their potassium intake. There's several foods that are high in potassium. Sure, I think everybody would understand that bananas are good for potassium, but they're probably still like maybe number 10 on the list as far as overall potassium provided. I mean, there's other things like white beans, beets, green leafy vegetables that have higher broccoli that have higher amounts of potassium. But my potassium level in November was 4.6, which is good. It's right. It's average. It's not deficient. But potassium is very important, probably often overlooked for managing your blood pressure. And then, of course, hydration is important. And I'm not, one to get into the water debate, that you need, 120 ounces a day or anything like that. Number one, if you're dehydrated, recognize it. Listen to your body. Your energy level may be a little low. Your cognitive abilities may be a little slow. You may have a dry mouth. All those things. But I was probably also until 2 years ago maybe a little on the dehydrated side with regards to my blood pressure and just overall. I probably drank a little too much coffee throughout the day. I love coffee, but I've been the last couple of years very much more intentional about having my coffee, and I drink my coffee black, but I love it. But being done with my coffee by like about noon. And the other thing I did was, again, you can't measure. I invested in just a water bottle. I know it's really simple. This one happens to be Camelback, but I know that is 25 ounces. So it just gives me, and I don't have like an app that reminds me to drink or anything like that. But what it does do is with that Camelback bottle, I just count the number of fills that I've gone through, and my goal is to at minimum have 3 of those done before the end of the day, and I try to shoot for like 4, but again, I'm not one. I don't force it, the hydration. The other thing I changed 2 years ago is I get up in the morning. First thing I do is get the coffee. I brew the coffee in a traditional drip maker, and I would just kind of like meditate or spend some time in gratitude. Well, the coffee was making. I now fill up a 16-ounce glass of water, and I finish that 16-ounce glass of water before I have any coffee. So that, I think, also has helped. So then triglycerides, I had that measured in my traditional blood work back in November with my primary care. It was 57. My fasting which is in normal range. My fasting glucose was 85, which is also in normal range. Your hemoglobin or HbA1c, that's not from what I've seen, it's not a standard blood order or marker that your primary is going to order. You can ask for it. You should ask for it. I am scheduled for Wednesday or Tuesday, tomorrow. I found that I could just order it directly from LabCorp. So I paid for it out of pocket. I think that was something like $25. I believe something like that. And then, and you don't need to fast for that. It is just a measurement of your glucose levels on average over roughly 120-day period, which really is a much better indication of like your insulin sensitivity, like what's going on with your glucose levels, as opposed to a snapshot on one morning of fasting. So I recommend your HbA1c. I'm going to get it, like I said, tomorrow. The other one that I'm getting tomorrow, and this is a new lipid measurement. It is, I don't have the time, and I don't want to go into the details. And lipids, the cholesterol, still something that I personally am studying. There's a lot to it. Even though there are people like Simon Hill that try to make it simple, I find myself listening to some of the podcasts revolving around the lipids to be a little daunting, a little overwhelming. But anyways, the lipid measurement that seems to have the best correlation to any kind of risk is now ApoB. So I'm also, that is not one that gets ordered in the standard lipid panel by most primary care physicians today. That is also something I ordered direct from LabCorp that I'm having tested tomorrow. So after tomorrow, I'll enter these two in. But that is also one, the lipid itself, that measurement does not require fasting either. So more to come on that. That is my update for today. There's, again, take the time to do the work. Take the time to understand some of these measurements in your life, because there is no investment that is more worthy than yourself, in my opinion. So I'll leave you with that. Coach Oli here, and telling you to live your longevity.